Johnny Rutherford in the pace car for the Budweiser G.I. Joe's 200 at Portland International Raceway in the Great Pacific Northwest. Robbie Gordon trying to get the tires scrubbed just as clean as he possibly can. Track nice and warm, temperatures going into the 80s here in Portland. A magnificent and beautiful day, crystal clear. 102 laps ahead. The first fuel stop, considering the yellows, could come about the 32nd lap. Some other information to consider as we head toward the start of this race. And that ongoing battle that is the Nations Cup, a battle in between the teams. It is still the United States looking so very strong in that particular fight.
And there's an ongoing battle between these car manufacturers also, because here this weekend, the Lola car that Michael Andretti is in, or Bobby Rahal, or Paul Tracy, is not as good as the Rainer. They are struggling here this weekend.
All right, and in today's field, as you ride on board with Paul Tracy, there's the breakdown of chassis, engines, and tires. So now let's go to the pits. Gary Gerald.
Paul, two of the drivers in the Lola chassis who've had a frustrating weekend, the Newman Haas drivers, Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti. Tracy starting 7th, Michael 10th. And for Paul Tracy, further frustrations diagnosed this morning by Dr. Steve Olvey on site with tonsillitis. He has headache, he has fever, he has inflamed tonsils. He's not feeling anywhere near 100% as he seeks his 3rd victory of the season. He is starting in the 4th row.
And here is the map of the track, 102 laps, 1.950 miles per lap.
And this track is very difficult to set up for, because at both ends you need lots of downforce to go around these long double apex corners. However, you don't need to drag that downforce down the long straights because you're too slow. But the key consideration here is lots of downforce eats up the fuel, and fuel is a major factor to trying to finish this race, particularly if you want to go in just 2 pit stops.
And in fact has decided some of the outcomes at this race. Paul Tracy, definitely keep an eye on him and hope that he does in fact feel better. Now remember too that the key passing area is that little bump that you saw on the main straight, the pit straight. They call it the festival turns, and I'll tell you what, you slam down in there, come down through the gears, jump all over the brakes, and if you're going to get somebody, that's where it's going to happen. The field comes into alignment in the carousel. The long straightaway lies just ahead. Johnny Rutherford drives the PPG pace car, gets it off the track. Field now in the hands of Jack Villeneuve, the pole sitter, as he pulls just a bit ahead and is being chased by Unser Jr. And we go green. Now that first turn, that critical turn, as Unser Jr. ducks in ahead of Jimmy Vasser, and Guzman tries to get inside Vasser too.
And look at Paul Tracy did. Down the inside of Guzman, or Vasser forced the issue, and Vasser gave him just enough room.
Well, if he's got some sort of problem, it's not evident in that start. Paul Tracy looking very strong. Guzman now trying to close on the back end of Vasser. There's the leader of the race, the 27 car, Jack Villeneuve. He should be very powerful today.
Fast in every session here. One of the few drivers, or one of the many drivers now running extremely low downforce, which means he is very fast down these long straights, and Unser Jr. knows that.
Unser Jr. got a great start, though, jumping up from the 2nd row and dropping into 2nd place. Look at that smoke, though, but that's not a concern coming off of Junior's car.
That is the wood burning. Wood burning, yes indeed. Jabrock, which is a condensed wood that they run underneath these cars, and the Penskes in particular run on the deck and burn up a lot of that wood.
So Paul Tracy flashes across the line in pursuit of Unser Jr. running in 3rd place, as once again you see the tremendous smoke as the cars bottom under braking here, and they've completed their first lap at Portland International Raceway at 108.025 miles an hour.
And that was Vasser, locks up the front brakes into that chicane. Back with Guzman, who was the fastest man, one of the fastest men this morning in the warm-up, goes to this race thinking that he has a realistic chance of having his best ever IndyCar finish. Closely followed by the rest of the Brazilian bunch. That was Gilles de Ferran and Christian Fittipaldi.
Then Brian Herta, Bobby Rahal, and Michael Andretti round out the top 10. There's Christian Fittipaldi, the 15 car. Fella that you seem to be very impressed with, too, as we watch the leader and we can see the interval from 1st back to 2nd place, Unser Jr., who very quickly is going to be irritated with the presence of Paul Tracy and Jimmy Vasser, because they're right there.
And just look at that impressive lead built up by Jacques Villeneuve already, only 2 laps into the race. And the comment was made this morning, he must have phenomenal mechanical grip because he's able to go so fast with such little aerodynamic downforce or aerodynamic grip. Look at Tracy all over the back of Junior as he gets it sideways under power out of the chicane.
That battle for second heats up while Tracy comes in, tries to poke his nose in behind Unser Jr. once again. Working the second lap.
This is the Lola versus the Penske. Unser Jr. was delighted with the handling of this car. The Penske on full tanks this morning. He struggled on Friday a little bit, then blistered in qualifying with that time that put him on the second row. But in full tank running this morning, he was happy. Let's listen in on Paul. Fastest part of the racetrack. Down to second gear. .75 miles an hour in full tanks. Watch how tight this is. Here's the long, long double apex corners. Watch how long this corner is. Doing his best and not able to stay with Junior. Look at Junior get away. Very important corner onto the long, fastest part of the track. Long back straight, 186 miles an hour in qualifying.
That battle's closer than it might appear. Tracy's, in fact, only 0.8 of a second back behind Unser Jr. As we watch Mauricio Gugelmin, Christian Fittipaldi, and Gilles de Ferran as they all battle. And the battle begins at 5th and extends really back through about 13th. They're all lined up.
All in the Reynard chassis. This is a huge battle between manufacturers here. The first 3 positions in the race at the moment, Reynard, Penske, and Lola. So it is close.
Brian Herta has joined the back end of this group as well, trying to close in. Michael Andretti sits back just a bit. There's Bobby Rahal, as now he's closed in and joined that fight.
Rahal, another driver who struggled mightily this weekend, again in the Lola.
Here's a look at the start from Paul Tracy's car. Give you an idea how crowded it can get down here.
He got a great jump. He goes inside, he goes outside. Look at this, brave move inside Vasser. Oh, Vasser sees him and just gives him enough room. Jimmy Vasser saved an accident there.
A little further back, this is how the start looked from Bobby Rahal's car.
Green flag is on your left. There it is. And now it's a blast. Rahal's done this many times. Oh, Gilles de Ferran locks the right front. And look at the room Rahal gives everybody. Whoa. Had to take a bit of avoiding action there.
I got to tell you something, those lenses tend to push objects away a little bit, so that was a lot closer than you might imagine between Rahal and de Ferran. So Jacques Villeneuve is the leader, and nothing's changed in the top of the order, and 5 laps are complete in the Budweiser G.I. Joe's 200.
And the pole sitter, Jacques Villeneuve, looking for his 3rd win, continues to lead.
200. Here is the interval in between positions 1 through 6, and you'll notice Unser Jr. is sitting there at minus 1.8 seconds. He's closing that down very quickly. Look at him now as he comes around on this lap. That interval is going to close down to less than half a second. And he just may challenge Jacques Villeneuve for the lead of the race as they get down into the festival curves.
And we know how good Unser Jr. is, particularly under braking. The last 2 laps that he did were considerably faster than Jacques Villeneuve. In fact, Al Jr. at the moment has the fastest lap of the race under his belt. Now, one of the questions that came up when Villeneuve ran all these fast laps with such low downforce levels, they said in the race, can this last? Can the rear tires stay under this Reynard when he begins to slip and slide, particularly if the temperature rose? And it is hotter today than I believe it's been in most of the weekend's running.
As we watch that battle for the lead, how does the crew keep track of this sort of thing? Well, of course, they have two-way radio with the driver, but they also have a television set in the pits that allows them to sit and keep track of the action. And what they know right now is that on the last lap, Unser Jr. ran the fastest lap of the race at 114.2 miles an hour. The EDS scoring keeping us up to speed on that. Now they flash down the front straight past the pits over the start-finish line, and Unser Jr. continues his pursuit.
And he's good under braking, but he's not close enough. The Ford engine in Villeneuve's car with less rear wing is fast down that straight. So I don't know whether Unser Jr. has the horsepower advantage in that Mercedes-Benz engine to catch Villeneuve. But all through the twisty section here, Al Jr. looks much, much faster than Villeneuve.
Unser Jr. scored his first IndyCar victory here. He's also the defending champion of this race, holds the race record. Held the track record until Jack headed out yesterday in the final round of qualifying, and just in the final minutes grabbed it away.
Oh, he's under pressure here. Barry Green will tell you that Jacques Villeneuve is very, very good under pressure. Likes to absorb the pressure and not make a mistake. Look how quick Junior is through that S's.
Jan Beekes, you can update us on Unser Jr.
I sure can, and in particular about the Penske chassis. Keep in mind that when Derek's talking about the low downforce of the Reynard, the one thing about the Penske chassis we know, it is extremely consistent. That's why he's able to close in on Jacques Villeneuve. The Penske chassis throughout the duration of the race and the history of the Penske racing machines have always been very consistent. We also have a report that that car is showing a lot of bottoming. They have jab rock or wood underneath that car, and when it is on full tanks, expect to see just a little bit of smoke, but not a problem for Unser Jr.
Now nothing else has changed in the order as we continue to watch this battle for the lead. Jacques Villeneuve in front, Unser Jr. in pursuit.
You can see under braking for the Festival chicane on the last lap, Al Jr. closed right up. I think he's beginning to pick his position. I think he's beginning to test where Villeneuve is quick and where he isn't. What's Junior here? Very quick through the right-hander. Right up behind him here. Penske team watches on television. And here's the important run. Can he get close enough under his rear wing to make a run down the inside? I don't think he's close enough this time.
Roger reaches up, talks to him by touching the transmit switch, which is actually on his headphones. Turns to keep track of him around the course by watching the same television picture you are. Gary Gerald, we talked about the Mercedes-Benz engine and Al Unser Jr.'s car. What about the Ford?
Just an interesting footnote on the Ford power plant. The two Newman Haas drivers, Tracy and Michael Andretti, are using what they call the Series 2 Ford engine. It's been redefined early in the season, as we talked about on several occasions, from the top of the block. It's better aspiration. It creates more horsepower. Unlike the Newman Haas team, Chip Ganassi's team used that engine for qualifying only for Brian Herta and for Jimmy Vasser. They've gone back to the Series 1, a little more conservative approach. They're concerned about how that car can last in the Renard chassis. And so they've taken a little different approach to this race today, Paul.
It's interesting, too, that that was a possibility at the Indianapolis 500, but it was enough of a change internally in the engine that it no longer fit the rules. Here comes Little Al, but Jack comes right across the front and blocks him.
Oh,
but Little Al at least knows where he can do it.
Oh, look at this. Look at this. Never been closer. Never been closer. Al Jr. knows if he's going to chop the nose off Jacques Villeneuve, he better get all the way alongside him, because Villeneuve will turn to take that apex. Villeneuve does not have that Series 2 engine. He has the stock Ford Cosworth engine in that Players Reynard.
You know what I found remarkable there is that Little Al didn't lose that much momentum despite that maneuver.
Al Jr. knows he has the measure of Villeneuve right now. He knows he's faster. He's got to just pick his time. Look at this. He's closer than ever here. Coming up on Eric Bachelard. Almost an impossible move here. Oh, Villeneuve blocked him too.
Into the carousel now. Eric Bachelard still ahead of him.
Here's the key run. The slingshot off the hairpin.
They should be able to handle up Bachelard on the straightaway itself, but Little Al just might get trapped. Look at him drop back, looking for a little running room. Now what does Unser Jr. do? Stays right there. They don't want to deal with the slower car in front of him. Boy, he could strike at any second, couldn't he?
Long double apex right-hander. Short uphill, all in the same gear. This is third gear.
If Unser Jr. has an advantage here, it certainly would be experience on this track and on calculating traffic.
Won his very first race here back in 1984, the opening of IndyCars here at Portland. And the Rose Festival has welcomed IndyCars every year here. What a great event this city puts on.
Still watching the fight for the lead, 13 laps. Complete. Nothing else has changed in the order. This is the battle on the course.
And you'll notice that Al Jr. takes a wider exit line all the time off that hairpin. Seems to come off a little bit faster. Oh, he's on the limit too. See that little twitch? Under braking as he turned in.
Lap speeds are falling off about 4 miles an hour. They've been turning the last couple laps at 110. So 4 miles an hour down from the fastest laps turned in the early going.
Penske chassis goes under constant development. They came here with a brand new underwing. It is completely different. Crew still watches their man in action, but this new underwing on the Penske generates more downforce than they've ever had on this car, and this may be the product of that type of wind tunnel development that goes on back in Poole in England under the direction of Mick Guzzi.
A group that keeps pretty good track of us on the global broadcast as well. Probably proper to say hi to everybody at Poole.
Watch Al Jr.'s line. See where it's wider? It's about half a car length wider, exiting a big swoop onto that front straight, but he's not close enough to build up now.
As the leaders flash by, the board goes out for Paul Tracy. You can get an idea of the interval back to third place. Tracy now, Jimmy Vasser, then some distance back and forth. Mauricio Guzman still in fifth, so no change there. Same with the bottom half of the top 10. Sixth is Christian Fittipaldi, then DeFerrin, Brian Herta, Bobby Rahal, and Michael Andretti rounds out the top 10. So no change in the order.
And if you move on down 11th is Fabi, and Robbie Gordon is worth mentioning because he has made a big jump from his lowly grid position, currently running in 12th.
Started back in 18th, was very disappointed. In fact, before we came on the air and I talked to him on television this morning, he was kind of hesitant. Boy, don't mention too much my starting position because it doesn't look good and I'm going to have to work hard. Well, he's gone to work.
Up over the curve on the left side as you get down through that fourth gear left-hander. Again, Junior's line is different. It is hard to close up behind the Ford engine in Villeneuve's car. Oh, this looks good here.
This could be the move as Al Unser Jr. ducks to the inside, can't get it done. Oh.
And it's such a risky move, Paul. If you cannot get all the way alongside the car, he will chop across, and then you're in line for a big crash.
That's Hero that lies just ahead of them now. Let's hope that he's very aware of the leaders closing on his position.
Needs to move aside. Hopefully he'll see the leaders and move aside. Caught the wrath of Emerson Fittipaldi yesterday during qualifying. Emerson said he ruined both of his laps on a new set of tires, waved his fist. So hopefully he'll move over.
So could this be the lap? Matsushita sitting just ahead as Al Unser Jr. closes in but gets trapped. Hero traps him, and that's going to give Villeneuve a good opportunity to pull away. And with a very tentative move, Unser Jr. moves alongside. Will be
because you wear them till their tongues hang out. Micotin penetrates the skin to kill athlete's foot.
Al Unser Jr. continues to chase Jacques Villeneuve. Unser Jr. has 28 career Indy wins, but only 3 of them have come on permanent road courses. 2 of those 3 right here at the Portland 200.
back here at Portland, nothing has changed. It is still Jacques Villeneuve being pursued by Al Unser Jr. In third place is Paul Tracy. He's running pretty much alone right now. Jimmy Vasser sits back a bit of a distance from him, about 2 seconds back, in fact. And then Mauricio Guzman of Brazil, and the other young Brazilian who is so solid this year in the rookie fight, Christian Fittipaldi. And once again, they work through the festival corners, and still Al Unser Jr. can't get Jack Villeneuve. Now, the question I have for you, Derek, is if Jack has a lower downforce car and Little Al is carrying all that downforce, is his current position running really in the vacuum of Villeneuve's car helping him?
Oh, it helps Al Jr. definitely drag himself up towards Jacques Villeneuve. But overall, he's not quite able to get close enough because Villeneuve's car is still quicker down the straight. However, if he does manage to squeeze by, it looks as if Unser Jr. overall on the lap does have a faster car than Villeneuve. But track position is vital. You have to get by him first, and Villeneuve can drive defensively. He doesn't need to block. Blocking is illegal, as Wally Dollemak told all the drivers yesterday. Look at the change in line here. Al Jr. still using that wide line, trying to get on the power earlier, but he can't just quite draw himself near enough to Villeneuve. Oh, he's having a look again.
And still no result. Just not enough to get inside Villeneuve in that corner.
It's a 90-degree right-hander, so you almost have to force the other guy to back off. And Villeneuve, if he thinks he has the line, he will slice down. And those precious front wings on that Penske could easily take a bit of a whack. And Unser Jr. knows that. But look at Paul Tracy come into our picture. Paul Tracy isn't letting this gang of two get away.
And I want to emphasize that except for this battle on the track, everything else remains static. Drivers here very concerned about tire wear and fuel economy on this course, especially if you get offline. Remember the lessons at Detroit. These new tires, the softer they get, the more they tend to throw off excess rubber, and that gets just outside the groove, and if you get out on that, it can be deadly.
This is where the whole race could change face. Oh, he's close now.
Barry Green watches in the Villeneuve pits as Unser Jr. tries it again, and still he sweeps across. So Roger Penske remains in second place.
Great fight here. So difficult to make the pass in this infield, but you can see at the apex of the corners, Al Jr. is quicker through those apexes.
While we continue to watch this battle, let's go pit side. Gary Gerald.
Paul, we're in the Villeneuve pit. We just got a quick word with Barry Green, who, of course, is the team owner, and we were asking him, are you having to play it conservative in terms of fuel? And he says, yes, we are. How concerned are you about the Unser situation right there and the pressure? He says, well, I'd much rather have a 10-second lead, but the important thing at this point, he stressed, we are right on target with our fuel mileage. And that business of downforce also relates to the drag, and that, of course, relates directly to how much fuel you use. Everybody knows Portland, year after year, is always a fuel-conscious race right down to the end, particularly if you don't get the benefit of yellow flags. So that's a big issue, even though it's early in this event. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, Gary, speaking of fuel, and we also saw Roger Penske in a shot earlier. Roger Penske has radioed to Unser Jr. with a different report. That is, your fuel is fine. Fine on fuel here in the Penske camp. Remember, they have a Mercedes. They're chasing a Ford.
Continuing to watch that battle for the lead. Nothing changes down lower in the order. The fight is right here at the front of the field, and once again, slower traffic lies just ahead.
Let me give you a quick, easy way to determine whether cars carry a lot of downforce or low downforce. Just look. Oh, look at that jab rock burning at the end of the Penske. Just look at the rear wing of Villeneuve's car and how deep it is, and look at Junior's. Much, much deeper. Quick, easy way to visually see whether a car carries a lot of wing or not. Particularly down the straight, you can see it.
Eliseo Salazar from Chile just ahead. Will he become a factor now as Unser Jr. continues to pursue? And no, he's not going to try it. In fact, he wanted to make absolutely sure that Salazar saw him.
Excellent move by Salazar. Stayed way, way off the racing line. Saw both leading cars come through. Al Jr. sticks a wheel on the dirt, but Villeneuve was particularly slow through those festival curves there.
Unser Jr. once again using every inch of this track, and he closes up even more. In fact, at this point, this may be the closest that he's been thus far. He might have a better run going on him when he gets out of the carousel.
Paul Tracy is beginning to reel in these boys here. Paul Tracy is closing the gap to Al Jr. and to Villeneuve.
But Tracy has been consistently running laps about a mile an hour faster while this battle goes on, and that's allowed him to close. Unser Jr. again takes that slingshot wide move off, keeps his momentum going.
Oh, look at this. Villeneuve comes to the inside. Defensive driving. Oh, he forces Al Jr. down the outside. Oh,
and he loses brakes, and Jr. moves into the lead. Nice bit of tactics, but boy, it definitely cost Jack Villeneuve. Experienced move by Jr.
Oh, very, very, very good move. He absolutely sold Villeneuve all the way down the line. Villeneuve tried to block him. Al Jr. read it perfectly, moved offline, took the perfect run, and Villeneuve was high and dry.
Interesting definition as we take a look at it again.
Now, Villeneuve is committed to the inside line. Junior says, okay, bye-bye. I'm going to take the normal route. Watch Villeneuve's front wheels. Locks them up, and Al Jr. says bye-bye.
And what they both know is Jack can make the first move to block, but the minute he makes the second move, he runs the risk of a black flag. You can't go all the way into the corner steering in front of him. We go back to the fight for fifth. Christian Fittipaldi, as he's sitting right on top of Mauricio Gugelmin, and Gilles de Ferran's just behind them. So this is a three-way fight for fifth.
All in Reynard chassis, 2 Ford engines and 1 Mercedes. Gilles de Ferran hanging on there, had a terrible warm-up session this morning, all sorts of handling problems, and Jim Hall's men went to work and have given him a very good racing car. Boy, he's had an active weekend though. He's been off the racetrack at least 3 times that we saw, trying to qualify well.
So Unser Jr. has picked up the lead as we watch the battle 5th, 6th, and 7th. This is the 4th race this year that Unser Jr. has led. He's led the most laps in both 2 of those races. We'll be back with more from Portland.
Al Unser Jr. is the leader now. Chris McClure, I wonder if this changes the fuel stop strategy for Villeneuve.
No, I don't think so. The team had planned to divide the race into 3 distinct parts of equal value. The first pit stop scheduled to go, if it stayed green, on lap number 33, and it has stayed green, so all that remains the same. Then 34 laps later, which leaves them 35 laps to home. They're on schedule.
Jr. is still the leader of the run here, followed by Jack Villeneuve. Paul Tracy is closing in from 3rd. Jimmy Vasser is 4th. We're focusing now on this battle for 5th place. Mauricio Gugelmin, Christian Fittipaldi. And Fittipaldi has been all over Gugelmin the last couple of laps, though right now it's de Ferran that is all over Christian Fittipaldi. Jan Beekes, you've been watching this fight.
I sure have, and we checked in with the Pac West crew in regards to Mauricio Gugelmin. He has radioed back to the crew that he's starting to pick up a push. The front of the car right now is not working the way Mauricio would have hoped.
Boy, exactly the last thing you want handling into that key passing area. You don't need a push there. On board, Paul Tracy, 3rd place. See just ahead, not the car immediately ahead. That's Matsushita, but just ahead of that. That's Jack Villeneuve, 2nd place. He's chasing it.
Series 2 engine in Paul Tracy's car. A little bit more horsepower than Jack Villeneuve. That's Marco Greco in Dick Simon's car. He'll do 4 races in that Dick Simon car. Moves aside. Tracy comes down the inside. But if Al Jr. had all that trouble trying to get by Jacques Villeneuve, it will not be any easier for Paul Tracy.
Let's look just a lap ago as Christian Fittipaldi put a real charge on Mauricio Gugelmin.
And this was so risky because look how close he comes to touching. Gugelmin comes across and Fittipaldi locks up something. We don't know what it was. How did he miss not making contact with Gugelmin?
Gary Gerald's Christian's car okay after that?
Yeah, they say the car is fine at this point, but their concern is that the leaders are getting away, and while Christian hammers away trying to get around Gugelmin, they're losing a precious amount of time. We've got pit activity, Paul.
Yeah, unscheduled. Emerson Fittipaldi, 17th in the pits. John?
Emerson Fittipaldi came in early. Looks like they had a little bit of a fuel difficulty, but the main reason that Emerson Fittipaldi was here, the car started to overheat. They thought they had some trash that may have collected in the radiator, but now I see them shaking their heads saying, hey, there wasn't anything in there. Maybe that's not the answer to his overheating problems.
Well, that's not good. If the temperatures are going up and there's nothing blocking the coolers, there's another problem there.
80 miles an hour down that pit straight. That's the rule. You get away with 85. If you go 86, you're brought in for an interview. But Emerson has not had a good weekend here. In desperation for the last qualifying session, he changed to Unser Jr. setup, and it still didn't make the necessary changes that he wanted.
Back on board with Paul Tracy, chasing 2nd place, Jack Villeneuve.
line over the curbs on the left. That's the lowest curb on the racetrack, the only one you can do that with.
Back to that battle between Big Mo and Christian Fittipaldi. Look at Christian. Christian gets alongside him on the exit. What a good move that was, as Christian Fittipaldi moves into fifth. And so with pit stops just any time now, Unser Jr. is the leader. He moved around Villeneuve, and Christian Fittipaldi got around Gugelmin. We'll be back.
Unser Jr. continues to lead Villeneuve and Tracy after 30 laps. Chris McClure, we talked about the fact that, you know, Unser Jr. has won 3 times on permanent road courses, twice here at Portland. He really likes this place.
He does indeed, and of course I think his experience at the place, a decade of it versus Jacques 2 years, really paid off in that festival turn in terms of what they were able to do down there. In terms of the pit stop, Barrett Green says no changes.
Seventh place. No change in the order back there. Christian Fittipaldi got around Mauricio Gugelmin, then DeFerrin came around, then Herta came around, and that pushed Gugelmin back into 8th position. But he stayed out. He didn't come into the pits. We expected that he might, and assumed that something was wrong with the car. We launch now the battle for 2nd place as Jacques Villeneuve continues to try to hold off the charging Lola of Paul Tracy. And we expect the leader, Unser Jr., into the pits at the conclusion of this lap.
And Unser Jr. currently has over 8 seconds of a lead on Jacques Villeneuve, so he is comfortably well up the road in that Penske. But this is a great fight here as Gugelmin is the first of the leading group to make a pit stop, lap 32, and Rahal.
So Rahal is in, Gugelmin is in. We expect all of the regular stops to come right at this point. Stop, they didn't make many changes on Gugelmin's car. He rolled away, now Bobby Rahal rolls away. And Unser Jr. makes the roll in. Jan Bigas?
Al brought it to a stop right on the marks, Paul. They're not expecting to make any changes here at the moment. It looks as though they're putting on scrub tires, not sticker tires, onto Unser Jr. These are tires he's run before. He's just waiting for fuel. He's out of the way. Just a little over 14 seconds for Unser Jr.
Unser Jr.'s out. Jacques Villeneuve picked up the lead on that stop. And Paul Tracy now moves up to 2nd place. And this is going to be interesting then on the battle of the fuel tanks.
That's right, Paul. The key is here. Al Jr. does not have the same fuel economy as these 2 leading cars here. They can go longer. Now, if Jacques Villeneuve or Tracy can go 2 more laps, they can maybe make this race in just 2 stops. I'm not sure Al Jr. can do that if this goes green all the way.
Well, we can consider this, too, that Unser Jr. came out of the pits 15 seconds behind Paul Tracy and slid into 3rd place. But if lighter cars, maybe a little faster, they can pull away for another couple of 3 laps. They might just put enough interval on Unser Jr. to be able to get in and out without him being in that much of a challenging position. But the reality seems to be that they may come screaming out about the time Unser Jr. comes past.
And look at the traffic jam coming out of that pit lane. Stefan Johansson, Raoul Boesel. But here's the 2 leading cars, 34 laps in the book. They will do 35. Those cars possibly can do just 2 stops.
Marco Greco makes his stop. Penske pit reporting that Emerson Fittipaldi is still having an overheating problem. They watch it on the telemetry. Here's the Honda, Andre Ribeiro.
Running Firestone tires, the leading Firestone car now is Scott Pruitt, who is 1 lap down. So not a good race this weekend for Firestone. Development needed on that tire.
Brian Herta came in as well, pitted just ahead of him. Boy, look at Tracy right on top of Jack now.
The tonsillitis medicine must have worked because it doesn't affect him here. Gets trapped a little bit behind Zampedri.
Good move by Zampedri, though. Comes offline, lets Tracy through. And Jack's going to turn down for the pits. Tracy's going to follow him. So 1st and 2nd place head into the pits. And as they crossed the line last time, Unser Jr. was a mere 18 seconds behind. He's gobbling up the distance right now. But Jack makes his stop. We look for any changes.
And we look for a battle of the pit crews here. Who can get their man out? Half a second will make a difference here.
Remember, Jack's crew has been great in pit stop contests, but then so has the Newman Haas team.
Oh, they had a great one. There goes Villeneuve.
Jack. Jack got out just ahead of him, and Paul Tracy's coming out slow. There he goes. He finally gets the clutch dump. He really didn't have to worry about the speed limit, considering he's way up there at the end. Jan Beekes?
What happened, Paul, is at the very end of that pit stop, it turned out that he did have a problem leaving here. We'll find out. It sounded to me, though the revs came really high, but he still almost stalled it.
Well, it cost him dearly. He was close in pursuit, but now he's got some distance to make up.
But that was a great pit stop competition right there between the two leading cars. And we saw how a second and a bit made such a huge difference, because Jacques Villeneuve is a long way down the road.
Gary Gerald, update on Jacques Villeneuve.
Team Green did another sensational job, as you saw, 13.5 seconds. They didn't change anything that impacts the handling setup on the car. Tony Cicali told me they are right where they want to be with fuel, and if fuel plays into this, as it seemingly always does at Portland, you've got to say right now, early advantage goes to Villeneuve. Keep in mind also, Paul, they won the Miami season opener by virtue of their work in the pits.
Well, Unser Jr. retook the lead on those stops. Then Jacques Villeneuve slid into second place, about 13 seconds back, followed by Paul Tracy, Jimmy Vasser, and Christian Fittipaldi. So the first stops of the day are complete on the 35th lap. And we've had two changes in the lead now, one on the course when Unser Jr. got around Jacques Villeneuve, and then in the pits when once again it was Villeneuve changing positions with Unser Jr. and then Unser Jr. taking it back. So the run continues. 36 laps are complete here. And Bobby Rahal currently runs in 10th place as you ride with him at Portland International.
Unser Jr. is the leader now with Jacques Villeneuve and Paul Tracy chasing as you look at the car of Brian Herta. Brian Herta starting on the fourth row along with Paul Tracy in this Portland 200. Interesting to note, dating back to the last three races of last season, Villeneuve and Tracy have won 7 of the 11 races so far, and they continue to dominate. And also make a note that it seems to be, for the last 5 years, the winner of Portland. The winner of Portland usually goes on to win the Drivers' Championship. Last year, of course, it was Unser Jr. who was the winner here in Portland, and he went on to be the driving champion.
The leader, of course, is Unser Jr., followed by Villeneuve, then Tracy, then Vasser, then Christian Fittipaldi is 5th. 6th is Brian Herta, then Michael Andretti, Gilles de Ferran. Mauricio Guzman's really fallen down, now runs in 9th place, and Bobby Rahal runs in 10th. As you ride with Sullivan, the next car ahead of him, not the one on the screen, but the one he's looking for, is Robbie Gordon, who's about 7/10 of a second ahead.
Danny having a bit of a struggle. He's had good days here in the past. On the pole 3 times. He won back in '88, but he hasn't looked sharp here all weekend. Struggling to keep up with his teammate Big Mo.
Keep an eye there on Danny Sullivan as we watch Christian Fittipaldi making his move to get inside of Matsushita and put him down a lap. There comes Vasser, who runs in 4th. Excuse me, Herta. And Michael Andretti, who sits back in this order in 7th place. I have to remind myself and remind all of us at the same time, Vasser has the yellow rollover bar.
Over the shoulder with Michael. Scratched his head after the morning warm-up. For some reason, lost the handling of this car right before Saturday's qualifying. Himself and Peter Gibbons got together, made lots of mechanical changes and downforce changes for the race, and didn't quite hit the sweet spot because Michael's struggling in 7th, which is struggling for him. He's had good days in the past here. He's trying to catch Brian Herta.
About 3 miles an hour off the pace currently being set by Unser Jr. He turned the last lap. Unser Jr. did at 112 miles an hour. Average speed of the race, 110.731 miles an hour. Right now with Robbie Gordon. Danny Sullivan is the car behind him trying to catch Gordon.
And what a different setup can make. The man who dominated in Detroit, languishing back in 15th here. Spent a lot of time this weekend playing with a new viscous differential in this car. Has taken it out for the race, but spent a lot of time trying to make that particular new differential work They didn't like it, but they lost precious time to set up for the race. And Gordon may now be paying the penalty because he is faster than he looks right now.
Yeah, but if it works, it's really going to help.
And of course, it's nothing new. Penske had them last year, and Newman Haas has run a viscous diff, which is basically a hydraulically activated differential as opposed to the regular one that's been used since Reynard came to IndyCar racing.
And that's all the argument last year and the year before about traction control. That's where all that argument actually came for. It was getting the power down very well. Well, Emerson Fittipaldi is still struggling, eh, Gary?
Yeah, Paul, he made a second stop here on pit road while we were in that last commercial break. They brought him in early before because the temperature was going up. They thought there was a bag in the inlet going to the radiators that was causing the overheating. They couldn't find a problem. The temperature is still going up. They brought Emerson in again, and they're chasing a gremlin right now, but that's impacting his performance, no question. Jan?
Yeah, I can give you a quick report on what happened to Robbie Gordon. We saw him a minute ago. Some of these teams are having a problem at the moment during the pit stops with the air jacks sticking in the asphalt. What is happening is it's very hot out here. Yesterday they had a NASCAR race. They spilled a lot of gasoline, and that really held up Robbie Gordon in his first pit stop.
So additional problems to deal with as we watch Raul Boisel trying to pick his way up through the field. Moves to the inside of Andre Ribeiro. That's not a pass for position. Right now, Boisel is looking for Stefan Johansson in his 94 Penske, which is the car just ahead of him and running in 12th place.
Boisel not having a good weekend either. You look at the list of races he's had this year, it's a phenomenal run of bad luck. Even at Indianapolis, when he believed he could possibly win the race, he broke an oil fitting, and that in fact was the oil that was dropped in turn 2 that cost Scott Pruitt, put him on the wall, and of course changed the face of the race for Firestone.
Unser Jr. now running into traffic. Fernandez just ahead. They're at 110.7 miles an hour. Average speed is 3 miles an hour ahead of the record.
Unser Jr. leading Villeneuve and Tracy. Chris McClure, the traffic in Portland, how important is that to get through it?
Well, it's always an important thing to deal with for any of the racers, but at Portland, a good deal more easy to solve than it would be at a place like Detroit or Long Beach. And usually, if there's room, the slower man will be courteous. Now, let's rejoin coverage of ESPN with Paul and Derek Daly.
You're looking back from
Villeneuve right now.
The two guys that have had problem there, one of them is this man, Jacques Villeneuve, the other being Jimmy Vasser. When they were braking and got in trouble, they both were offline. Now, one of the concerns is all the rubber balls that are laying just off the line.
And the rubber balls you mentioned, as we watch the full field rundown here, the rubber balls you mentioned, of course, are a consequence of this tire war that we have going on. Soft compound rubber leaves these tires, it rolls up into a ball, gets deposited offline. You have to be very, very careful not to run over too much of that. And Tracy's not being too careful now because he closes up on the back of Jacques Villeneuve, about to give him another headache.
As they come onto the pit straight, Jan Beekes has been watching that situation with Jimmy Vasser.
That's right, Paul. We had a chance to check in with Tom Anderson, who, of course, is the team manager who looks after Jimmy Vasser. We asked him, is there a brake bias problem? Is there a problem with the brakes on the Reynard? He said no. Just tried a little too hard, got in there too deep, and locked him up. So, not a mechanical problem, but maybe an enthusiasm problem there for Jimmy Vasser. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, one of the things that comes along with brilliant clear skies and all this sunshine in the Pacific Northwest, increased track temperatures. At the start of the race, tire engineers tell us it was 130 degrees on the asphalt. It's now up to 136 and obviously is climbing. This is the highest temperature we've seen on the track thus far this weekend, and that contributes to this business of trying to get grip.
Oh, big situation down in the festival hairpin. Michael gets together. Michael is able to pull it away. Herta or Vasser?
Brian Herta, who was running ahead of Michael Andretti. Michael obviously made a passing attempt at Brian Herta. I don't know whether he stalled the engine or not, but the target car sits there. He was the target when Michael came down.
And that is going to bring out the double yellow flags at the start-finish line and the PPG pace car, because they're going to go to a full course yellow. Here it is, Derek.
Trying to get by Scott Pruitt. Herta down the inside. Oh, Michael rams him from behind. Brian Herta had no hope. Mugged from behind by Michael. Brian Herta was the innocent bystander there.
And what was adding to my confusion was the fact that Vasser was right there, teammate to Herta, and was able to dart to the outside and get around both of them.
So two of the positions that Vasser lost by his indiscretion earlier, he now makes up with Michael, drop kicking his teammate Brian Herta.
Well, we're at the halfway point. The leader at the halfway has gone on to win in 7 out of 11 races here.
Jacques Villeneuve, Paul Tracy second and third. Chris McClure, the Villeneuve team, won the pit stop competition at Indy. They did it again in Portland.
They did indeed. They got the honor just before the race began back at Indy. They collected a big toolbox, $10,000 worth of tools. And this week, when they were named the mechanics of the race, every member of the crew got this memento from Snap-on, a gold screwdriver for the mantelpiece at home. Now, let's go back to ESPN.
Taylor won a birdie at number 12, got it to -12. Bob Murphy just birdied that same hole. He's within 1. Summerhays a bogey backing up. That's the story here at the Nationwide. Let's go back to Portland. Here's Paul Page again.
That's what it was.
No, you're not. You're back at Portland International. The Budweiser G.I. Joe's 200 under a full course yellow now. Unser Jr., of course, the leader of the race. Here's what set up that full course yellow. Brian Herta, Michael Andretti, Jimmy Vasser in line. They move alongside Pruitt.
And Herta has the line, clear and simple. Michael breaks way too late, drop kicks Brian Herta, had no hope of getting around himself, and Michael was lucky to get away with this. He does make contact with the rear suspension. I don't know whether there's anything damaged.
And gets it back on the course and stays in competition. Now here's the onboard view from Michael.
Here what was happening, he was fishing for gears, couldn't get the gear he wanted. Whoa, he got the revs he wanted.
So Michael was able to get it back on force and continue on. Now the view from Herta. Boy, thanks for missing the camera, Michael. Whew. Now, while that was happening, this was going on. Paul Tracy was making his close at the back of Jacques Villeneuve. This is the battle for second place.
We're in traffic.
Boy, take a look at that inside move. Puts Tracy into second place behind Unser Jr. So now slowly they circle the course. Look at all the marbles there on the edge. Jan Beekes?
We've caught up with Chip Ganassi, which of course owns Brian Herta's car. Did you get to see that on the monitor, or did Brian say anything?
Well, it's pretty obvious. You know, we saw it on the monitor, Jan, as everyone can see out there. You know, it's obvious some drivers just can't stay out of trouble down in that corner.
Now, Michael drove for you last year, and he had the same problem in the same corner, but unfortunately in your car that year.
Like I said, it's obvious some drivers can't stay out of trouble in that corner.
Thanks, Chip.
We're ready to go back to green flag racing. Herta's car sits off the edge of the course.
And it's not Brian Herta he's talking about either.
No,
the driver
it's
that
not.
can't stay out of trouble.
So now back to green flag. As Unser Jr. is the leader, Paul Tracy is second, Villeneuve is third, Christian Fittipaldi is fourth, and then Jimmy Vasser. That's Robbie Gordon sitting in there, but he is down one lap.
So Unser Jr., who had 17 seconds over the whole field, now loses 12 of that. He's now 5 seconds ahead of the field because of these slower back markers that are in the way.
But
hard to believe we're talking about Robbie Gordon
as a back marker.
As a back marker in this particular race. It shows you how sensitive these cars are to having the right setup.
All right, he lost his time advantage, but did he pick up a fuel advantage?
Oh, he did. We mentioned earlier, he was the first to stop, 2 laps ahead of Tracy and Villeneuve, which meant he probably would have had to have had a splash and go. Now, he may still have to have it, but the yellow flag certainly played into the hands of anybody who had a fuel possibility of having to have a splash and go.
As Unser Jr. continues his lead, Emerson Fittipaldi was in and out of the pits. His continuing overheating problem. There you see him joining back in traffic.
Oh, the traffic jam again down to the festival curves here. The slowest corner on the racetrack is 35 miles an hour second gear.
Well, Brian Herta now has his 7th DNF in 9 races this year, Gary Gerald.
The frustration factor I know has got to be boiling over right now because you have had such a hard time finishing races. What happened?
Well, you know, it's just Target Scotch team's been doing a good job for me all weekend. They put a good car under us for the race, and you know, it's running strong. We're moving up, running steady, and we're going past Pruitt, I think, for a lap, and you know, Michael just misjudged braking and ran right in the back of me. It was really disappointing. It's, you know, not the kind of move you expect from somebody that's you know, won as many races, as good a professional driver as he is. I know he just made a bad mistake.
As a young driver trying to come up in this series, Brian, do you find now a situation where you try to talk to him after this race is over about it?
Well, you know, I mean, yeah, you can try and talk to him, but it's not going to help anything. The race is done for me.
Thank you.
It doesn't help Brian's day, and Michael certainly knows what he did.
You might be able to see that Brian still has that very pronounced limp, a legacy of his terrible crash in Toronto last year. He still has a metal plate and a rod in that right leg, and look at the traffic jam here. DeFerrin round the outside of Michael. Can he make it stick? Yes, he does.
DeFerrin's not having any of that. He's not going to let him stick down inside there. So Michael Andretti and Del DeFerrin battling for 6th place. In fact, that whole group running right together now from Vasser on back. And that means 5th place on back. Unser Jr. has 9 seconds in the lead over Paul Tracy. But boy, this is where the battle lies now.
Now, this is a great battle here. Look at that line of cars ahead of Gilles DeFerrin and Michael Andretti there. Some of the back markers, they're in their own race, so they can't pull off the racetrack.
Yeah, but from Jimmy Vasser on back, you're actually talking cars that are in contact with one another and, in fact, fighting for position. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Paul, you had that terrific replay at the time when Tracy was able to make the passive build-up. That was so close to the yellow incident involving Michael Andretti and Brian Herta that there were protests lodged on pit road. IndyCar officials thought for a moment there might be a black flag involved because the pass was made under yellow. They reviewed the situation and said no, the pass was clean. That was certainly welcome news for Paul Tracy.
Boy, take a look at DeFerrin once again as he comes inside of Carlos Guerrero. Now, Michael Andretti tries to get past. He can't do it. Guerrero comes across the front of him, and that ongoing battle continues. This is great.
That move by DeFerrin was as brave as we've seen today because he did it the hard way. He went around the outside of Jimmy Vasser and then down inside Guerrero. What a move by DeFerrin.
Back nose to tail, the entire group once again. Again, cars on the leader lap, mixed in with cars that are a lap down.
Michael gets stuck. Michael's behind lap traffic. He needs to get clear. His battle is with Vassar, not with these two cars who are side by side. 3 abreast down the back straight.
Boy, and Michael gets nailed there. He was looking for an opportunity to get Guerrero. He couldn't do it because Guerrero was coming out and around Bachelor at that time.
Rahal is in the mix. He's in there too. He's not in the fight. He's running 8th. Oh, he is in the fight behind Michael.
Yeah,
Teo Fabi's there.
2 laps ago, Rahal was able to get around Gugelman. Now back with Michael. There's that fight up ahead. Michael is 7th.
Something did fly off when these two cars made contact. I couldn't see whether it was something from Michael's car or not, but it certainly hasn't seemed to slow him down. He's a bit slower than the front runners. He is charging as usual. Mario's here, watching what's going on. Mario has lots of tales about his recent Le Mans 24-hour race. What I found incredible is they had 19 hours in the rain trying to win that 24-hour race, and he just came up a little bit short, finishing 2nd.
And still shows that he has it.
Oh, and can't wait to get back next year to try and add that final chapter to his great career. There he is, 19 hours they had to battle through the rain, and Mario took most of the double stints in that very difficult situation in France.
Mario watches son Michael from the pits, and Michael continues his pursuit. Jimmy Vassar just ahead. Michael tries to move to the inside. They come around Salazar.
And Salad Bar again moves way offline to let the 2 leading cars go by. I can say that he's my former teammate.
Exactly.
We raced together in Formula 1 back in 1980, long time ago.
Long time ago. Running order, top 6.
DeFerrin will talk about that move for a while to come yet, as Vassar will. Jimmy Vassar, of course, survived a monumental crash at Elkhart Lake just last week while testing. At 200 miles an hour, Vassar had a rear tire explode and literally left the racetrack and turned upside down in one of Chip Ganassi's cars and had to go by lifeline helicopter to Milwaukee. Had no injuries, in fact, hardly affected him at all this weekend.
So Unser Jr. continues his lead in the Budweiser G.I. Joe's 200. 2nd place is Tracy, and then Jack Villeneuve.
Starts, going wire to wire. Meanwhile, Robbie Buell of the U.S. started the day 2nd place, spun off in a late race incident, as Greg Moore goes on to a convincing win by more than 11 seconds. And he still had time to play taxi driver, as Greg Moore would take the checkered flag, and then on the way to victory lane, Greg Moore would pick up Robbie Buell and bring him back to the garage. Congratulations to Greg Moore, who makes it 6 of 7 this season. Unser Jr. continues to lead. Paul Tracy now about 8 seconds behind. Jacques Villeneuve, followed by Christian Fittipaldi in one of his best performances ever, as we ride along with Paul Tracy.
Jimmy Vassar. In this case, though, he has to be very careful as he comes around Andre Ribeiro. Ribeiro is running in 19th place, a lap down and not part of the fight. But boy, very much, Vassar and Andretti are locked in battle, and it's a fight for 6th.
And it is a great fight. There's the tight shot of the nose. You can see that the center of the nose made contact with Brian Herta's car. And luckily,
everything else is intact.
It looks as if it is fully intact. So Michael should have no handling change on that car. And obviously with the speed he's running, chasing down Vassar, he doesn't seem to be any slower than he was earlier in the race.
Even with the yellow, we continue to run at a record pace, 107.8 miles an hour. The race record set by Al Unser last year. Al Unser Jr., 107.7. Let's go pit side, Gary Gerald.
Well, we told you about the fact that Paul Tracy's got tonsillitis and is really battling the elements here in the cockpit today. He has said virtually nothing on the radio, except just a few moments ago, he told the crew that he wants something to drink. He never takes fluid during the course of the race under normal circumstances. but that throat's giving him a lot of discomfort. So when he makes his second and expected final stop, he'll take on some fluid then. We also have a report, Paul, that Tracy thinks Sullivan may be blocking him on the racetrack. Paul?
Eddie Cheever out of the car. Race is over. Driving for A.J. Foyt. Oh, and we've got problems back in the carousel, or the festival turns again. Carlos Guerrero.
Teo Fabi, it looks like.
Yep, that's who it is. Boy, that's too bad.
Teo, who went so well on Friday here. Robin Hurd, his engineer, was here, had him running in the top 3. Robin left, and Lee Dykstra took over the setup of this car. Good new young team here, run by Tony Brunelli, but Teo Fabi losing a lot of time and brings out the double yellow.
So we go to our second full course yellow of the day in the Budweiser G.I. Joe's 200.
All the leaders have come in for pit stops under yellow, and you wonder now, Chris McClure, can they go the rest of the distance?
Good pit stop for Jacques Villeneuve. He was in and out in about 15.5 seconds, 4 tires and fuel. They had about 38 laps to go to the end of the race. And I talked to the tire man before they went over the wall. They have a set of tires on that only had 1 lap to scrub them in briefly, 1 temperature cycle. It's their best set of tires. Now is the time. Now let's rejoin our race coverage.
Back in Portland. Very scary situation just now in the pits as Danny Sullivan came in for his stop. Many of the leaders were in as well, and suddenly a fire erupted on Danny Sullivan's car. And with the help of crews from everywhere, you can see some of AJ's guys came down there and threw water on the car, which is the great thing about the fuel being methanol. You just dump as much water as you can on, and it takes it down below its ability to burn. But it was a scary moment, and in fact, you still kind of look around and make sure that there is no fuel in the pits. Jan Beekes?
Well, what they're doing, Paul, is they doused everyone here with water right now. Everyone is checking to see if everyone's okay. You can see here that Danny Sullivan is talking with some of the crew. The thing you do with the water is methanol will dilute with water. Of course, gasoline will not. It looks obviously as though the fire is out. A lot of water around here, and you can obviously see that everything worked the way that they always hope methanol fires will. We'll have to check to see if anyone did get scorched.
Danny Sullivan apparently is okay.
Girlfriend
over
Brenda.
talks to Brenda.
That is the scary thing for a driver, because you can get trapped in those cars. Here it is. They get Sullivan out, but the flames are on the right side of the car. There's a crew member right behind on fire. He's on fire and he doesn't realize it. You hate to see that type of activity because you just don't know how serious it could be.
Boy, look how fast they responded, Jan.
Okay. Well, there's a big crowd obviously around Danny Sullivan. Everyone's streaming in to find out what happened, and we'll just join the interview in progress. Danny, what happened?
Well, I can't really say 100%, but Zig gave me the word to go and took off, and Jerry wasn't totally disconnected, so it just twisted the nozzle when it comes out and sprayed fuel everywhere. And you know, there's so much hot stuff around there, it just ignited it.
So did you get burned at all?
No. As far as I know, nobody did. I mean, I think there were some hot people, but I don't know if anybody really got burned.
Well, I'm sure that's not how you wanted to end it, but thankfully everybody's okay.
Thank you.
Well, good news. Only his second DNF of this season for Danny Sullivan. He's been in there, been in the fight. And we have another full course yellow, not due to that situation, but due to the blockage down in the first turn. And that gave everybody this opportunity. Unser Jr., as the leader, came into the pits during the yellow, as in fact did most of the leaders of the field. In fact, we looked down the order, everybody came in.
Watch Penske. See this? Whoever they were watching on the racetrack, Paul Tracy did the same thing.
That's who they were worried about. That's who they were worried about. He was down at the end. Watch for little Al come out.
His stop was only just over 11 seconds. Now, here's the key, though. Unser Jr. will have to go 39 more laps if he's to finish without another pit stop. Gary Gerald?
Well, Derek, you mentioned that he took on fluid. We knew that he wanted some. He didn't have much time because that had to be one of the most sensational pit stops we've seen this entire season. It was 11 and a fraction seconds from the Newman Haas team. Tracy got his sip of fluid. He is back out there. It was a brilliant stop. But the key here is that it came with 39 laps to go. And I think that means we're going to see everybody back on pit road for a third time before this one's over. Jan?
Well, Gary, the fact that he could do that pit stop in 11 seconds tells you something. They didn't fill that car up. You can't do it that fast. But the Penske team, on the other hand, I think they got a full load of fuel into Unser Jr. The crew is very upset about the yellow. A lot of times they're excited. It's because they wanted to pit on lap 69. They knew that would be their last pit stop. Now, they're not totally sure. It's a Penske gamble. They said, we had to come in because if everyone else did and they could make it, that would be the race.
We're under yellow at lap 66. Thank you, Jan and Gary. This is Danny Sullivan's onboard camera during that stop, which resulted in a fire. Nothing yet. And now they can see they got a real problem. They're going to try and drag it back, but apparently not a fire yet. Now it's something's burning over there on the car's right side. That's the trouble with methanol, is you can't see the fire.
And that's A.J. Foyt's crew that you see dump the water onto Danny Sullivan's car. So everybody lends a hand when trouble like this breaks out.
And Danny, being no fool, took a quick exit from the car, almost an ejection seat. So under full course yellow now, Unser Jr. is still the leader over Paul Tracy and Jack Villeneuve as the Budweiser G.I. Joe's 200 continues from Portland International as part of the Rose Festival.
Welcome back to TSN's coverage of the Portland 200. This is round 9 of the IndyCar World Series as we look at the car of Christian Fittipaldi, right now the leading rookie of IndyCar racing, running in 4th place behind Unser Jr. with Paul Tracy and Jacques Villeneuve 2nd and 3rd respectively. Interesting to note that of the last 3 IndyCar races, they have all been decided by less than 1 second. This one, though, several seconds.
Still under full course yellow, Unser Jr. is the leader of the race. Let's go to the pits right away. Begin with Jan Beekes.
Paul, you talked about the A.J. Foyt crew working on that fire with Danny Sullivan, but that was because Eddie Cheever had just come in with a problem. What put you out?
I had a cooling problem. One of the clamps fell off and I lost all the water. In the beginning of the race, I lost first gear, so it wasn't that good of a weekend.
Now tell me, were you there when that fire broke out, or were you already back here?
I'm glad that we have such a good crew. I'm actually, now that I saw what a good job they did with Danny, I'm sure if we have that problem, I have no problem at all. They'll put it out. They're seconding as firemen. That was very ugly. I don't know what happened, but I think Danny pulled away with the fuel vent still on, and there was methanol all over the place. And all of the crews around there, everybody kicked in and made sure there was a lot of water spit around. But things like that can get ugly very quickly.
Now, I know you've had some personnel changes here at A.J. Foyt Racing. The engineer you worked with is no longer with you. Is that kind of disrupting your rhythm right now?
I think he had to go back to Lola to do some design work. He was working for us part-time. We've had, I think our biggest problem is that we've been snake bit the last 4 races and we can't seem to get a rhythm back, but we'll pick it up. We're still in an evolving mode right now, but the help, we still get consistent help from Lola, and that engineer was on loan to us. Now they've called him back.
We know you'll be back. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Well, now the guessing game really gets underway in earnest regarding the fuel situation and the remaining laps, because the normal distance here at Portland is about 35 laps, and we saw Tracy go 35 laps early along with Villeneuve in terms of fuel economy. Each one of these laps under yellow is helping these teams. We asked Tom Wirtz here, who is in tune with both the Newman Haas drivers, Michael Andretti and Tracy, about that great stop for Tracy, under 12 seconds. I said, did you get a full load of fuel? He grinned, he says, we think we got enough fuel we're going to need. We're hoping we can go all the way. But I think you clearly get the feeling it is going to be a guessing game. They may need one more yellow before this is over. Paul?
Well, 2 thus far today, though the good news is they also were able to get some sweepers out on the course during this yellow and clean up some of that rubber debris that has been on the edge of the racetrack. Under yellow, Unser Jr. is the leader. Paul Tracy is second. Jack Villeneuve is second. We're ready to go green racing once again. They circulate, heading for the pit straight. They should see a green flag as they come screaming off that final corner, the carousel. And here we go. Unser Jr. handles up the one problem that he had, which was Scott Pruitt sitting ahead of him. and put some distance between himself and the 3-car of Paul Tracy. Jacques Villeneuve is able to close in just 1 car back, separated only by Eric Bachelard.
Look at Christian goes by Villeneuve.
Oh, what happened there?
Well, Villeneuve was in trouble under braking, locked up the right front, was slow in. Now he's in all sorts of trouble.
Now, there's more than that, yeah.
There's more than that now.
Villeneuve just suddenly slowed on the exit of the corner. And now he's almost nowhere to be seen as Paul Tracy continues to try to work his way up. Comes around Alessandro Zampedri in the Peyton Coyne car. There's Villeneuve, but running off the pace and well back.
In deep trouble. Something wrong with Jacques Villeneuve. We don't know. In deep trouble. Look at the traffic jam behind him, and Johansson goes to the outside. Big Mo is in there.
And in fact, Jack's trying to keep out of the way as the rest of the field comes stringing past.
Whatever it is, it's a shame they couldn't have fixed it under yellow. Is he got a puncture?
They all look up.
That's funny.
Well, the race control is saying that, and this comes in from the corner workers, SCCA corner workers from several regions around here, manning the corner stations here, that he might have run over debris, but the tires look good. Of course, that doesn't mean that they are good. Gary Gerald's right there.
Well, we watch this team, this sensational driver. Boy, you see him shake his head in frustration. We hear it may be debris that he ran over on the track. I'm not sure that the crew knows. They're all anxiously on this side of the wall watching the crew change tires. Now they're pointing out something back there on the left rear suspension, and there may have been debris from Scott Pruitt's car. Now the engine's off.
And one of
So
the
they're going to have to peel the bodywork back here.
One of the IndyCar officials, Gary, noticed something on the left rear of the car. Let's see if we can look at the replay and figure out what happened, Derek.
And it's a simple start. Al Jr. clears Scott Pruitt. Paul Tracy pulls out of line also. Jacques Villeneuve back behind. He's following Paul Tracy. Nowhere close to him. That's Robbie Gordon right behind him. Now watch what happens when he gets into the braking zone. There's something flickering.
Yeah, that's just a tearaway that I think came from...
Oh, Jacques Villeneuve goes over it, and suddenly the car begins to... Something happened right as he put his foot on the brakes. The car made a twitch, locks up that right front, and he's slow from there on.
Well, that was flickering on the course there looked to be a tearaway off of Matsushida's car. Gary Gerald?
Well, here's Jacques. What happened?
Just when I hit the brakes, something broke on the left rear, and that's it.
Do you know if it was suspension or was it a rotor in the braking, or do you have any idea?
It must have been in the suspension because the right front was raising up in the air.
Possibly a shock mount?
Could be.
Well, how tough is this after this terrific run that put you on the pole with a new track record?
Yeah, the car was pretty good. We were pretty low on downforce, and with the heat, the car was sliding a lot. It was a hard race, but we were keeping our position, and it was looking good for the end.
And it doesn't help as far as that championship is concerned right now either, does it?
No, definitely not.
Well, he continues a wan smile, and he looks ahead now to the next event. It'll be at Elkhart Lake.
No points for Jacques Villeneuve today. Interesting problem, though, on a car that is very strong, that Renard.
Yes, it is. That was a surprise. And Barry Green's philosophy for these middle-of-the-season races is no consistency. We need to go for race wins. Interestingly enough, one of the observers here this weekend who, although he won't say he was watching Jacques Villeneuve, was Bernard Dudot, the engine designer from Renault Formula One, and Christian Konzen, the director of motorsports, is here. Now watch the slow-mo replay. It's right as he puts his foot on the brakes. You'll see the car begin to twitch. That's when the rear suspension breaks. He's in a straight line. There it is right there. See that little twitch? Car begins to twitch. He's on the brakes. The left rear suspension is broken. That's why that right front begins to lock up, because it's lightweight. Jan Bikas?
Well, we've talked about the Reynard chassis being very strong, but according to Adrian Reynard, he says with the new cars this year and with the new tires, that they now have 15% more grip than they expected to have this year. Therefore, that sometimes takes its toll on those suspension pieces.
Well, it looks like that overheating has finally taken its toll on Emerson Fittipaldi as he's pulled off the edge of the course. And some of the officials are there ready to give him help. So Roger Penske is one car less in this race. Did you notice that when Villeneuve had that problem, that the teammates Christian Fittipaldi and Robbie Gordon were side by side right behind him? And boy, they really went for a spread to try and get around him in that corner.
I mentioned Bernard Dudot earlier. I didn't want to gloss over it. There obviously is serious Renault are obviously taking a serious look at IndyCar racing for them to send Dudo and Consen, Director of Motorsports, over here this weekend to see exactly what is going on.
So not just here as a race fan and spectator, some serious consideration. Now 73 laps complete. Unser Jr. is the leader. Back at Portland, Unser Jr. still the leader. Paul Tracy in second place. Right now in third place is Christian Fittipaldi. And then this battle, Gil de Ferran and Michael Andretti battle for fourth. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And Emerson Fittipaldi, you were fighting overheating problems. That proved to be the final difficulty, Emerson?
Well, from the beginning, you know, the engine was losing power, and we found there was a water leak on the engine. I had to come in to put water, but was working on very high temperature. And I think the engine is gone now.
How tough was it out here today in this heat, aside from the problem you had relating to track conditions and the rest of the field? What's the car behind you, Emerson?
Not so bad, but I think the heat on the engine was my problem today.
All right.
It's okay.
Thank you.
So Emerson Fittipaldi, who has had some success here, walks away. Look at de Ferran as Michael Andretti closes in, and de Ferran gets caught up behind Scott Pruitt. That also gives Jimmy Vasser an opportunity to close in. So now it's a three-way fight, and Michael tries a move.
Oh, it's a great fight. Fourth, fifth, and sixth. De Ferran trying to hold them off. He's in traffic. Scott Pruitt running a bit slower than he needs to, than he'd like to. Infield, very difficult to pass. De Ferran knows that Michael will stick his nose in anywhere he gives him just half an opportunity. De Ferran has had 5 DNFs in 8 races, 4 of them due to contact, and one, of course, the opening race at Miami due to gearbox failure when he had a chance to win that race. Look at this, right up behind him, over the curb.
You know, it's interesting with Michael. Just before the start, I was talking to him, and he said, look at de Ferran locked the right front up. I was talking to Michael, and Michael said, you know, maybe we just collect points today, but that can never totally be true for Michael. He is such an aggressive racer.
Watch this here. Oh, look at this!
Oh. Comes sweeping way down the inside. De Ferran gets in trouble on the brakes. So does Michael. And that lets Jimmy Vasser come around de Ferran, and maybe he's going to get Michael before this thing is over.
Drag race to the infield, and Michael wins it.
Scott Pruitt, the factor that started that one, running a little slower into the corner. Now de Ferran with Rahal all over the back end. Rahal was able to come up. De Ferran fell back into 6th place, and Rahal is right there ready to attack.
That almost verged on being a block of Michael, which is against the rules of IndyCar racing. You can change your line to drive defensively. That's what de Ferran is about to do here when he sees Michael make the move. He goes with him, he blocks him, but then he changes his line. Wally Dolomic won't like that. And watch what happens here. They both almost missed the turn-in point. Watch Vasser. Watch Vasser. Defending your position is different from blocking. And when you change your line, it can be considered as blocking. And in the drag race here, when Michael just got a nip from Jimmy Vasser, and Michael wins that drag race to the infield.
So Michael and his former team owner probably going to have a conversation. He's now managed to put the Kmart Lola mark on both of Chip Ganassi's cars. I got a feeling Chip isn't going to like it. Let's take a look at it from Michael's onboard camera.
Watch de Ferran make the move. Michael was in neutral. That was a case of he was braking so hard he didn't have time to down change to the gear he wanted. He went through in neutral. Then he realized he was in a gear that was way too high for the drag race. That's where you see him fish for gears, and then he got the blast of acceleration.
Oh, good stuff, Derek. We were talking about this yesterday when we were watching Michael Andretti on our coverage of qualifying. And Rahal tries to get inside de Ferran, but I'm not so sure he can hold it. De Ferran keeps the corner for the moment. Now Rahal's got it.
Oh, you have to hold your breath, even when we're this far away, when you see 2 cars die for that apex on that slow left-hander. And thankfully, they each knew they were there, and Rahal manages to squeeze past Gil de Ferran, who has gone from 4th all the way back to 7th.
We were talking about Michael and his onboard camera view. whenever he gets under a heavy braking situation, you can see him just kind of sink down in the cockpit. Part of that's G-loading, but you also wonder whether or not he's reaching out to touch the brake with his toes. Now watch as he comes way down in the cockpit.
And it's so clear. Look at that. It is so clear. We watched it during practice and qualifying.
Every corner, he goes 3 sponsors down.
Vassar was side by side. He goes 3 sponsors down. He does indeed, down the staircase.
I wonder if that means that if you're a lower sponsor on his helmet, you don't have to pay quite as much because your exposure isn't as long.
Johansson and Bozell, we see them in the shot there. Johansson running 8th, Bozell 9th, Big Mo is 10th. So this is a fight here for the on the racetrack also. Fernandez is in there. Although he's not in the battle, he is a lap down in 12th.
DeFerrin lights up those tires again under braking. Unser Jr. leads it by only 8 seconds, though. Paul Tracy is second. Christian Fittipaldi is third. They run separated on the race course, not in contact with anybody. The battle is here with DeFerrin, Johansson, Bozell, and Gugelmin.
Tony Bettenhausen's team, a new team manager, Martin Dixon, who was with Stefan Johansson at the Onyx Formula One team.
We mentioned Mauricio Gugelmin running in 10th, DeFerrin in 7th. Jan Bikas, you've been tracking them both.
That's right. Those are 2 drivers that we saw further up in the order, now sliding back. First of all, Mauricio Gugelmin. He feels as though the rear shock absorber, something is happening there in the heat. Those rear shock absorbers seem to be going away. We checked with Jim Hall as far as Gilles DeFerrin goes. He says, no, we don't have a problem. It's just that we're slipping back right now, but they're not sure what might be up with that car.
And did you see DeFerrin there? Because DeFerrin reached up and was waving at Pruitt to say, look, I'm back here. Can you get over to the left because I'm right in the middle of this battle with Johansson right behind me. Well, Unser Jr. has now led the most laps in the race. It's the 3rd time this year that he's scored the point for the most laps led. And if they finish the way they are right now, Unser Jr. will move to the points lead for the PPG Cup. Back in a part of the Portland Rose Festival, the Budweiser G.I. Joe's 200, as we watch the leader with 8.3 seconds lead over second place Paul Tracy. Unser Jr., he's led the most laps. If he stays where he is, he'll pick up the points lead in the fight for the PPG Cup, but it's not much of a lead. In fact, any one of 6 drivers could move past it at any time. And there is the move by Johansson.
And that was a scramble past Scott Pruitt to put him between himself and Bozell. It wasn't for position, but Johansson had difficulty passing Scott Pruitt.
It doesn't look like it's going to last long either. Bozell is going to be right back at Pruitt. And Christian Fittipaldi running 3rd is off the course. Oh, no. He had such a good run going.
What a great afternoon Christian was having. He's been fast here all weekend, never been to this racetrack before, and it looks simply as if he wants a tow, so that may have just been a simple mistake that put him off the road on the first of the infield left-handers.
Looking over the car, no evidence of contact. He wants him to get him back going again, frustrated with the long wait that he has. Michael Andretti moves into 3rd place. Jimmy Vassar will come into 4th.
Had a lot of misfiring on Friday on Christian's car, but now he makes things easier for Paul Tracy because there's no pressure from 3rd place now on Paul Tracy.
Paul Tracy's sole sight now is in front of him. The leader of the race and his former teammate, Unser Jr. Hiro Matsushita just ahead, moves to the inside. Tracy comes past. There's the leader of the race, Unser Jr., the #1 car of the defending PPG Cup champion. Now take a look up at the end of the course, looking for 2nd place. There we go. That's the interval that Paul Tracy has to make up.
That is over 8 seconds, which, unless he gets a yellow flag, in fact, it's over 10 seconds now as he crosses the start-finish line and goes through the timing beams. This car has benefited from going back to last year's braking system on the front of these cars. They did it for Detroit. It was much better. Remember all the trouble Paul Tracy had in Miami in the opening race when he crashed, I think, about 4 or 5 times and said the brakes wouldn't work properly? Well, in fact, as the races wore on, the twin caliper front braking system that Lee's Lola's had, that they were designed with, would wear out so much that they would lock the rear brakes. That's why Michael crashed in Australia. They're much happier now under braking with the old system fitted back to these Lolas.
back on board with Paul Tracy. As you can see, he closed for a bit, and then when he got into traffic, he lost out, but now he's got a clear shot. On the last lap, Paul Tracy was 4 miles an hour slower on the lap than Unser Jr. Unser Jr. turned it at 112, and Tracy was down at 108, but he picked the speed up to 111.7 on this last lap. So Paul Tracy is back trying to close in again, 10.9 seconds behind. We watch DeFerrin, currently in 8th place. Johansson closing on DeFerrin. Christian Fittipaldi finally got restarted. He's going again, but he's fallen well through the order. He's off the leader lap, running in 13th position right now.
What a disaster for Christian. You never come back from spending that much time off the racetrack. He'd probably continue on here. I don't see any damage on the car at all, but threw away a rostrum position, which is unusual for Christian, because Jackie Oliver, his former team manager of Arrow's Formula 1, will tell you he is one of the drivers that is particularly good at always coming up with the results when you need them.
So Christian Fittipaldi back in the run. Only 2 drivers have had no DNFs this year, Al Unser Jr. and Mauricio Guzman. Al Unser Jr. is a...
Paul Tracy continues to chase Al Unser Jr., but Chris McClure, he's falling back.
Paul Tracy's up against a wall today that he hadn't really expected. He came up this morning with inflamed tonsils, took medication and rested all morning, had a raging headache when the race began. His only headache left is Al Unser Jr., but he's not a well man in the car. Let's join our race coverage.
Coming up on July 9th, right after our coverage here on ESPN of the Road America race at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, IndyCar Speed Shop, hosted by Jack Arute, with Al Unser Jr., Michael Andretti, Mario Andretti, Bobby Rahal, Danny Sullivan, all part of it. Also, you get an opportunity to pick up some great IndyCar merchandise, some caps, some T-shirts, so when the IndyCars come to your area, you can be ready. And if you have a few extra bucks, the 1994 Lola chassis used by Mario Andretti on his Arrivederci Tour. Derek, you can pick that up, maybe $250,000, no problem.
Hey, no problem. Whatever you say.
Hey, it's in your pocket. No, I think you could buy it. Al Unser Jr. is still the leader, started 3rd, now runs at the lead. He's led the most laps. Here's the real question. 25 laps ago, he made his last stop for fuel. The math does not carry him to 102 laps. Roger Penske's no doubt done the calculations, and in the last, what, 3-4 laps, Derek? Not only he, but most of the front of the order, most of the top 10 is going to have to be in for a stop.
The captain knows that, but we also believe that Tracy may have to be in for a stop or a splash and go, which we have seen many, many times here at Portland. This track, because of the so much acceleration, just sucks up the fuel.
All right, let me ask you a question then about pit position. Paul Tracy is the closest pit to the exit. Roger Penske is about a quarter of the way down the pits. There's an 85-mile-an-hour absolute speed limit. It's really 80, but they'll give you 5. Who has the advantage, if anybody?
If they do a good pit stop and maintain 80 miles an hour all the way in, all the way out, nobody has the advantage.
Jan Beekes?
Well, when you talk about that pit position, remember that they are each positioned in a way that they can come in as nearly as fast as they want, and then in Michael Andretti's case, he can get out as quickly, and as, of course, his teammate Paul Tracy. Now, the point I was going to make is about Penske Racing. Just check with Richard Buck in the situation with Al Unser Jr. Said, can you make it to the end? Of course, we speculate no way, but he said, well, it's going to be tight. In other words, giving us hope that, well, it is possible that he could do it, but we expect to see him in here with about 2 laps to go.
And of course, at this point in a run like this, nobody's giving you the most accurate information. That's staying very tightly guarded within the team. Al Unser Jr., you saw him as he flipped a tearaway off of his helmet coming through the S's the last time, but this is a lap or so before that.
Goes over the curb. Oh, look at that piece of debris
what that was.
Flew out from underneath that Penske. Now, that may cause a handling difficulty. So let's watch very carefully and see, does Paul Tracy begin to close in on Al Unser Jr. I don't know what that was. I don't know whether it was from Al Unser Jr.'s car. Maybe our pit reporters can look at that, but
9.8 seconds, the separation to Tracy right now. We'll keep tracking it. Al Unser Jr. continued his pace on the last lap, 112.5 miles an hour. What do you think, Derek? Here it is again.
He goes over the curb. Now watch from behind the race car. It looks like a piece 12 inches long by about 8 or 9 inches wide. And I don't see him run over that, so that may have come from the Penske.
Maybe it's his race plan on a clipboard. The question, Jan, what is it that came off of Little Al's car? Can you help?
Well, as close as you were watching that replay, so was Roger Penske and Richard Buck. They watch it very carefully, and they think it might be, when he went across the curb, a piece of that jab rock, that wood that is the skids underneath the car. They think that's what flew out behind Unser Jr.
Richard Buck, of course, the chief mechanic for Unser Jr., his longtime chief mechanic, in fact. Well, that would mean that everything's okay if, in fact, it is jab rock. It's not really critical to the performance of the car, not like one of the aerodynamic surfaces, which was one of the first questions. Grant Newberry there talks to Roger. They discuss it over. Rick Mears standing by as well. And they all, no doubt, Roger looking around and saying, "Oh, I'm on television now, so I can't check and see how my car's doing." He's leading Roger, and he's pulling away from Paul Tracy, now running 10.6 seconds ahead. So whatever it came off doesn't seem like it made a difference.
There is a report from one of our corner spotters that it possibly could be a piece of jab rock which goes underneath the car from Marco Greco's car. Unser Jr.'s last lap was still above 114 miles an hour, so he's not going slower.
So from Greco and not from Unser Jr. Gary Gerald.
Well, if they're playing poker down here, oh, everybody's scrambling. We have a yellow. What's happened?
No, no yellow.
To the wall. Michael Andretti is coming in. Flat tire, we're told. Flat tire for Michael Andretti. We were just going to say if they're playing poker on fuel, they were emphatically insisting no splash and go needed. But a puncture has brought Michael Andretti in. His teammate Tracy continues to run second as we watch the tire change for Andretti. No other changes on the suspension, and he's out of here.
Oh, but it was costly. Dropped him down to 8th, last position on the leader lap. He went in 3rd, came out in 8th. But he did get the fuel.
And it took him 11 seconds, so that was more than just a splash and go. That was not a time stop. So he took a lot of fuel onto that car. You heard the rev limiter? They rev these now to 13,300 rev during qualifying. Race revs for the engine is about 1,300. And that rev limiter is so efficient that it simply does not allow the driver to rev the engine high enough to break it, no matter how much throttle he gives it.
Well, all of that action moves de Ferran up to 5th, but Stefan Johansson in a 1-year-old car is still working very hard on Gilles de Ferran. Unser Jr. is still the leader, 11 seconds now ahead of Paul Tracy. Was running in 2nd place and just suddenly slowed on the main straightaway. Now with just 6 laps to go, pulled it off and around into the paddock area. Here it was, slowed coming off that last corner, and knew whatever it was real serious, and came all the way around the corner. He's with Gary Gerald.
Paul, I know this is tough. Drivetrain related?
Well, it's a shame, really. Budweiser car was running really good, and we couldn't match Junior, but we were out there just pacing ourselves, trying to hold down 2nd place, and something went wrong in the drivetrain. Either a clutch or a half shaft gave up, so it's a complete shame, and I feel real bad for the team.
How tough for you personally today with the tonsillitis inflamed and the headache and the temperature and all of that?
Well, it's been a tough day, and obviously we were driving well and trying to collect some points, and it's just a real shame we had to drop out with a stupid mechanical problem.
How damaging is this to your championship hopes? You were in 5th place within striking distance.
Well, it's really damaging. We were right there with a good finish here. It would have put us right there, and now we're going to be scratching at the bit for the rest of the year.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks.
So Paul Tracy with a very disappointing retirement after driving a brilliant race. Now watching Raul Boisel on board with Bobby Rahal.
And he's in a fight here with Jimmy Vasser, who is now back up to his 2nd position, which would equal his best ever. Finished 2nd in Detroit, now having to hold off Bobby Rahal.
So the order is Vasser following Unser Jr., then Bobby Rahal, Gilles de Ferran, Stefan Johansson, Raul Boisel, and Michael Andretti. As we go down through the remainder of the order, those off the leader lap, Mauricio Guzelman, Robbie Gordon. 10th place is Adrian Fernandez. And then Paul Tracy is falling through the order, but Christian Fittipaldi is back up to 12th right now. Bobby Rahal runs in 3rd place right now. Unser Jr. has a 29-second lead, but in the next couple of laps, he very definitely should have to stop. We're going to go away now. When we come back, we should see some action going to the check. With 3 laps to go, Gil de Ferran just had a failure on the car, pulled off the line. He was running in 4th place. That gave Johansson the opportunity to stream past as well as everybody else. What was a great battle for de Ferran is now apparently over. But the battle itself, not yet complete. Bobby Rahal now runs in 3rd place, and he is trying to chase Jimmy Vasser. That's Vasser just ahead. So it's a battle for 2nd place between Rahal and Vasser. Unser Jr. has 29 seconds over 2nd place. The other question, of course, is fuel to the end of the race. Vasser turns very sharply, and Rahal closes. Andre Ribeiro sits ahead of Vasser.
Great run here for Vasser and for Rahal. Rahal has slowly climbed his way up. This car did not handle well on Friday. He had changed it almost every single session. This morning, he said he's working on being best in class, best of the Lolas. Well, that is good enough right now to be on the rostrum.
With 2 laps to go, fuel looms very big as a question. Will they go driving past? White flag comes out for Al Unser Jr., so Unser Jr. is going to try to make it the whole way.
That piece of debris we saw was not from Al Jr.'s car. We do believe it was from Greco's. We mentioned that earlier. We do believe it was not from this Penske. So it's plain sailing now. We know he has enough fuel.
Gary Gerald.
And regarding de Ferran, we just talked to Jim Hall. They have fuel pressure, so it wasn't out of fuel. It's something motor or engine related.
No, it was a very sudden stop. Jan?
A very quick update on Al Unser Jr. When Paul Tracy came out, his closest competition, he could slow down, lean the car, short shift. He should make it easily on fuel.
Unser Jr. working the fast part, the backside. He's done with that now. 29 seconds. He is ahead of 2nd place Jimmy Vasser.
He's cruising through these last S's and the last right-hander.
Still has power on the car, though. Jr. completes his 2nd victory of the year, the 29th win in his career. And he takes the points lead in the fight for the PPG Cup. Now Rahal trying to close Vasser, the battle for 2nd place. Vasser well ahead, but Rahal's right there. Is it possible that there could be a run off of this final corner? Sounds like Vasser stuttered just a little bit coming off the corner, but now under full acceleration. And Jimmy Vasser takes 2nd. Rahal finishes in 3rd. And Stefan Johansson, who was running in 4th, gets rear-ended. The 4th place car, Johansson, is rear. Gary Gerald.
Something about this place the Junior absolutely loves. This is only his 4th natural terrain road course win, 3 of them now in Portland. The key may have come when you stalked Jacques Villeneuve early. You set him up perfectly for the pass, it appeared.
Well, it was, you know, I figured Jacques was going to be the strongest one out there today, and you know, he got off to a good start and so on, and got a little bit deep on the original start. But then, you know, he started to go away, and it was going to be tough. But he ended up backing up to me, you know, and I was able to stay with him. And then it was just, you know, I was really waiting for the pit stop because my guys are the best in the business, and we were waiting for them. But.
So he's done it again. Team Penske's back, and he's vaulted to the head of the standings, Paul.
Well, and the cycle continues. Al Unser Jr. adds his name to the cycle that we started at the start. Now, this was the battle for 4th as Michael, in the final turn, punted Stefan Johansson. Michael, therefore, finished 4th. Johansson dropped way down to 6th.
I don't think this was Michael's fault. Johansson obviously stalled exiting that onto that front straight, and Michael had no option but to run into him.
So here is the unofficial order of finish.
Al Unser Jr. wins for the 2nd time this year and wins Portland for the 2nd year in a row. In fact, his 3rd career win at the Portland 200. And with the win, he moves into the lead of the drivers' points by 2 over Villeneuve and Gordon.